So may I request Mr. Arunabh Singh, Director, Nehru World School, Ghaziabad, to give a special address. Yeah. I'll just request to both of you 10 minutes each because we have.
I can do 5.
No, I want you to be 10. Thanks. Thanks.
So this opportunity that has been presented to me, it's like going to school every day. You have no idea what you're going to get into. For I was kind of prepared to sit easy on a panel and answer a question that would be thrown at me. But just the opposite has happened, and so here I am. In fact, Ankur, this kind of brings back a memory I have maybe 8 years, 10 years back. There were these two boys of grade 6. They came to me and said, "Sir, are there crocodiles bigger than our school bus in Africa?" Now, no matter what I would have learned in my degrees or my experience, there was no way that I would have known the answer to that. So I said, "Boys, I have no idea. And, but I promise you, by tomorrow I'll have your answer." So they left the school, and I went to Google and tried to figure out. So yes, apparently one of those boys were right. There was a crocodile bigger than our school bus in Africa. And that day and today, students would still surprise us. Situations would surprise us. And more recently, the governments would surprise us. I think the governments actually surprise us more than the students surprise us. The laughter kind of tells me it's true for every state, or almost every state. Just to get a sense of who I'm speaking with, can I get a raise of hands of school entrepreneurs? We like to call ourselves edupreneurs. This kind of sounds fancier. School heads, school principals, school directors. Somehow school directors raise a hand which is slightly higher. Right? And school middle leadership teams, future leaders. Right. So we have a mixed bag of people that we have in the school. This session essentially talks about how do you drive value out of an educational establishment. I've got the topic right? Okay, I mean, it's been slight mix up with the time, so I don't know which slot this is. Right, so we're trying to talk about value being driven out of schools. And for some people, that value could be respect that the school management committee drives. For some, it could be the profits that they are driving, while all of us are essentially non-profit organizations, and profit is actually a word that is banished in our schools. Some people don't understand that word. But essentially, every school has to be commercially viable. It has to pay off its loans. It has to pay off its initial investments. And especially the new schools, the investment is a lot more than some of the existing schools. We were trying to understand how much money it would take us to set up say a 5-acre school in Noida Expressway, and the numbers come to about 100 crores. It would take 100 crore rupees to set up something on the expressway. And then you need to have the fee and the student numbers come in. So it is not just teacher opens a school and then people get to know about it, and then students come and it's viable. It is a lot more complicated process now, isn't it? Anybody else who is still willing to open a school in the country? Can I get a raise of hands there?
I think it's the unique of every category.
Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah? Already facing losses. Which brings me to the question of, so how do we convert these losses? Is there actually a way? So to schools that are existing right now, and there are government policies that would not let us charge higher fee, Delhi schools. Delhi school owners? Any Delhi school owner here? You Delhi school owner? My heart bleeds for you. But Delhi schools haven't been able to raise fee for 3 years now. Isn't it? That's the fact. And then some schools raised it and they had to give the money back. Very unfortunate. Very unfortunate. But still, we have to make these organizations financially viable. I've spent the last 12 years inside a school. I get there in the morning. I'm usually the last one out. we save money on the person who has to lock the room, so I do that. It's an important thing to do, you know, come on, don't judge me on what I do. I have to, you know, keep my position in school safe. So I tell everybody, I'll lock the school, don't you worry. Nobody makes profits in school, ma'am. But we are financially viable. So I know there are people in this room who've got, you know, maybe twice as much experience as I've got, or maybe 4 times more experience as I've got. But one thing that I have figured in just a little over a decade, in the long term, the only way to drive value is to put that value in that child. There is just no other way to do this. There are some very fancy marketing companies out there, and they have a plan of how they would conquer the social media and the physical media and the news space and brand management. I personally think it is just the value that eventually goes in. There is a lot of vigilante population that we now have with the parents, and quite a few schools face them in April and May. In fact, many of us don't do parent orientations in those months anymore, because we don't want to see 100 people getting together, because we don't know what those 100 people are going to say. Fortunately, we've never faced that. And I keep my fingers crossed every April and May. But we've never faced that. And the only one thing that I thought comes to my mind of, you know, what are we able to do? I think we're able to make that connect with that parent. That communication channel where the parent would come in and say, the school and I are one team. And if I'm able to do that, that is when I am truly able to drive that value. There was a study that I did a few years back as a part of my dissertation on school choice. So I asked a few hundred people, what made you choose the school that you chose? Any guesses of what? Let's okay. Right, Ms. Bail wants to speak. Why you think school reputation was something that, you know, people would have looked at?
Which parents would look for, the reputation of the school,
right.
And maybe also the fee structure which suits their pocket.
Right, so what is affordability and what is the reputation of the school? I will rephrase my question. What do you think was the influencer? What was the one most common influencer? Do you want to give that a...
Infrastructure. The answer I got was you.
Huh? Was?
The answer which I got from the parents, why they chose my school, was you.
Oh, you, the brand.
So
right.
It's all about connectivity. How do you connect
Yes.
with the parents?
So they essentially trusted you and said, you know, I'm leaving my child with you. Okay, that's one as well. Gaurav wants to add something there.
Community by word of mouth.
Okay, right. Existing parents is what Gaurav says, and we have a response here. I'm sorry, I wasn't able to catch that. You. The infrastructure. Okay. Should I break the news to you? I spent 4 months doing this, and all you've had to do is listen to me for 8 minutes. It was the teachers and what the teachers were saying about that school. And once I saw it in those numbers, then it kind of made sense. You know, if I have an ailment and I have a doctor in the family, even if it is not that ailment, that doctor would treat. I would still probably give that guy a call and say, you know what, I have this, and the doctor says I have this. What do you say? So it is kind of obvious. It is high stakes. It is not like buying a Geo SIM and then telling people, don't store it, it's only Geo. It's not low stakes. It is very high stakes. So what are the teachers saying? So if I have a teacher in the neighborhood, then I ask that teacher and say, you know, I'm considering that school for my child. What do you say? And once we figured that out, we stopped our advertising budget in the school. Our advertising budget now in the school is zero. Sorry, DL. but we don't spend on advertising anymore. We've taken that money and we spend that on teacher training. Thank you. Didn't I tell you they would clap when I'm just about to go? Thank you very much for listening to me. You have...
What you are doing is this. What you are doing to the teachers, sir.
Yeah.
I'm applauding for that.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm glad you didn't sleep through my session.
Yeah, we replace the word teacher with mentors and facilitators. Because if we don't want ourselves to be instructed, our kids won't. So it's good to facilitate them, guide them, and mentor them.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. We should totally get a coffee later. Thank you very much for listening to me.